Okay, now we want to continue talking about reasons for climate change, and now we want to throw into the mix plate tectonics. So, what role do the continents play in altering the climate of a planet? So, first, I want you to think about Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii is an island in the middle of the Pacific. It is surrounded by water. Think about the climate on Hawaii. Okay, it's basically 72 degrees, 24/7, 365 days a year. So the temperature of Hawaii doesn't change that much. Okay, why? It's because it's surrounded by water. So let's say that it's during the middle of the summer. Heat that is coming in from the sun that normally would be heating up the island of Hawaii is going into the water. So the water is storing that excess heat. During the winter time, what happens is the water gives off that heat, which then blows onto Hawaii, and again, it keeps it warm during the winter time. So the point is that when you're surrounded by water, the climate is moderated. So it doesn't. Now, if your island is up at the North Pole, it's going to be cold all the time, but it's not changing. If you're at the equator, it's going to be hot all the time, but it's not changing. Okay, so sometimes all of the continents are separated. So when the continents are separated from each other, you have a lot of ocean water that can circulate in between the continents. So that tends to mean that the climate is going to be moderated on these continents. On the other hand, when you have a supercontinent, okay, especially in the middle of the supercontinent, you're going to have more severe climates. So think about what it's like to live in Siberia. So Siberia in Russia. So normally you always think of Siberia as being cold. Well, that's true during the wintertime. But during the summertime in Siberia, it's very hot because it's surrounded by a continent. Here in North America, you can think about North and South Dakota. So during the wintertime, they're very cold, and during the summertime, they're very hot. So continents can moderate the climate. Another thing that we found out about continents is that depending on the rate of divergence at a mid-ocean ridge, that can cause water to slosh onto a continent and cover those continental shelves. So the more water that is covering a continent, again, that's going to moderate the climate, and also it depends on where the continent is. So if that continent is at the equator, it's going to be very hot on that continent. If you have a lot of ocean water at the equator, then the water is going to get hot and it's going to evaporate and you're going to have more storms. If your continent is at the North or the South Pole, it's going to be very cold, and it's going to provide a place where ice can begin to accumulate. And if that happens, it might just trigger an ice age. So the positions of the continents are very important in determining the weather and also the ocean flow. All right, so now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about what is the evidence for climate change.